Sarah Keithland sat in the cold waiting room and stared at her 4 hands. The blue scales on her skin caught the harsh white light from above. She had been waiting for 2 hours now. The receptionist, a tall gray alien with 6 eyes, kept looking at her with disgust. This was her 15th job interview in 6 months. 15 rejections. Each time they looked at her resume and seemed impressed. Then they saw her walk through the door, and their faces changed. The blue scales and 4 arms told them everything they needed to know. She was Valerian. That meant she was a thief, a liar, a criminal. The door opened, and a thin alien with purple skin walked out. He looked at Zara with cold eyes. "Miss Keithland," he said in a voice like breaking glass. "Thank you for coming. Unfortunately, we have decided to go with another candidate." Zara felt her heart sink. She had not even been called into the interview room yet. "But sir," she said, standing up slowly, "you have not interviewed me yet. I graduated top of my class from the Galactic Engineering Institute. I have 3 degrees in quantum mechanics. I can fix any ship in the galaxy." The purple alien looked at her like she was something dirty on his shoe. "I am sure you are very qualified," he said, "but we need someone who fits with our company culture, someone our clients can trust." Trust. The word hit Zara like a punch to the stomach. No one trusted Valerians. Her people had been pirates and thieves for hundreds of years. It did not matter that she had never stolen anything in her life. It did not matter that she had spent 10 years studying to become an engineer. All they saw were the scales and the reputation. "I understand," Zara said quietly. She picked up her bag and walked toward the door. The receptionist watched her go with all 6 eyes, probably making sure she did not steal anything on her way. Outside the office building, Zara leaned against a wall and closed her eyes. The trade station Nexus Prime was busy around her. Aliens of every shape and size walked past, talking and laughing. Ships came and went from the docking bays. Everyone had somewhere to go, something to do. Everyone except her. She pulled out her datapad and checked her bank account. 300 credits left. Her visa for the station would expire in 2 weeks. If she could not find work by then, she would have to go back to Valeris Prime, back to the slums where she grew up, back to a life of poverty and hopelessness. Zara walked slowly through the station's main corridor. The walls were covered with job postings and advertisements. She had tried most of them already. Cargo companies, mining operations, research facilities. They all said the same thing when they saw her. "We will call you." They never did. She stopped at a small cafe and bought a cup of coffee with her last few credits. The alien behind the counter, something that looked like a walking tree, served her without speaking. At least he did not look at her with hate. Zara found a quiet corner and opened her datapad again. Maybe there were new job postings today. She scrolled through the list, but most were the same ones she had seen before. Then she saw something new. Cargo ship engineer needed. Experience with quantum drives required. Species not important. Apply in person at Docking Bay 94. Species not important. Zara read the words 3 times. She had never seen that phrase in a job posting before. Most companies did not even bother to say they cared about species. They just rejected her when she showed up. Maybe this was different. Maybe this was her chance. Docking Bay 94 was in the older part of the station. The walls were more worn here and the lights were dimmer. Zara found the bay and looked at the ship inside. It was not much to look at. The hull was scratched and dented. The name Liberty Bell was painted on the side in fading letters. It was obviously an old cargo ship, probably built 50 years ago. A man was working under the ship, his legs sticking out from beneath the hull. He was human, with brown hair and clothes covered in grease. Humans were relatively new to the galaxy. They had only made contact with other species about 30 years ago. Most aliens thought they were strange and unpredictable. "Excuse me," Zara said. "I am here about the engineer position." The man slid out from under the ship and looked up at her. He was probably in his 40s, with kind eyes and a beard that needed trimming. He looked at her 4 arms and blue scales, but his expression did not change. "You must be here about the job," he said, standing up and wiping his hands on a rag. I'm Jake Morrison, captain of this beautiful piece of junk. He gestured at the ship with a smile. I am Zara Kethlan, she said, offering him her resume on a datapad. I have experience with quantum drive systems and ship maintenance. Jake took the datapad and read through her credentials. His eyebrows rose higher with each line. Galactic Engineering Institute, he said. Top of your class, 3 degrees. This is impressive stuff. He looked up at her. Why are you looking for work on an old cargo ship like mine? Zara hesitated. Should she tell him the truth? That no one else would hire her because of what she was? I need work, she said simply, and I am good at what I do. Jake nodded slowly. I bet you are. My last engineer quit 3 days ago, said the pay was too low and the work was too dangerous. He laughed. He was probably right on both counts. But I need someone who knows their way around a quantum drive, and you clearly do. You mean you will hire me? Zara could not believe what she was hearing. If you want the job, it's yours, Jake said. The pay is not great and we travel to some rough places, but we treat our crew like family and we always pay on time. He extended his hand. What do you say? Zara looked at his outstretched hand. No one had offered her a job in 6 months. No one had even given her a real chance. This human, this stranger was willing to hire her based on her skills, not her species. She reached out with one of her 4 hands and shook his. I say yes, she said, and for the first time in months, she smiled. Zara's first week on the Liberty Bell was not easy. The other crew members looked at her with suspicious eyes. They had heard the stories about Valerians. Everyone in the galaxy had heard those stories. Lisa Carter was Jake's second in command. She was a tall woman with short red hair and arms covered in tattoos. She watched Zara carefully during meals and never left her alone in important parts of the ship. Ben Torres, the navigator, was more direct about his feelings. He made jokes about hiding valuables when Zara was around. Just because the captain hired you does not mean we trust you, Lisa told Zara on her 3rd day. Valerians have a reputation for a reason. Zara tried to ignore the comments and focus on her work. The ship's quantum drive was old and needed constant attention. She spent most of her time in the engine room using her 4 arms to reach places that would be impossible for other species. The work was familiar and comforting. Tony Rodriguez was the ship's mechanic. He was a quiet man with dark hair who rarely spoke to anyone. But he watched Zara work with interest. Sometimes she caught him nodding when she fixed something particularly difficult. Amy Foster was the pilot. She was young, maybe 25, with blonde hair tied back in a ponytail. She seemed less hostile than the others, but she still kept her distance. On her 7th day aboard, everything changed. They were carrying a load of medical supplies to a mining colony on Kepler 442b. It was supposed to be a simple 3-day trip. The colonists needed the medicine badly, and Jake had promised to deliver it on time. They were 2 days into the journey when the quantum drive started making strange noises. Zara was in her small cabin trying to sleep when the ship suddenly stopped moving. The lights flickered and she could hear Jake cursing over the ship's communication system. All hands to the bridge. Jake's voice echoed through the ship. We have a problem. Zara hurried to the bridge, where the crew was gathered, around the navigation console. The screen showed their position in empty space far from any planet or station. The quantum drive just died, Ben said, his face pale. We're stuck. How long to fix it? Jake asked, looking at Tony. Tony shook his head. Could be days. Maybe a week. We would need to dock at a proper repair station for something like this. We do not have a week, Lisa said. The medicine we are carrying will expire in 3 days. Those colonists are counting on us. Jake ran his hands through his hair. Zara could see the stress on his face. This was his reputation on the line. If they failed to deliver the medicine on time, word would spread. No one would hire them for important jobs again. Let me look at the drive, Zara said quietly. Everyone turned to stare at her. Ben laughed, but it was not a happy sound. No offense. But if Tony cannot fix it, what makes you think you can? He said. I have 4 arms and 3 degrees in quantum mechanics. Zara replied calmly. Let me try. Jake looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Show me what you can do. The engine room was hot and cramped. The quantum drive was a massive piece of machinery that took up most of the space. It was completely silent now, which was wrong. A healthy quantum drive always hummed with energy. Zara opened the main access panel and looked inside. The other crew members crowded around her, watching. She could feel their doubt like a weight on her shoulders. The problem was worse than she had expected. 3 main power couplers had burned out, and the quantum field generator was completely fried. On any normal ship, this would require a complete replacement. But Zara was not thinking like a normal engineer. She pulled out her tools and got to work. Her forearms moved independently, each one performing a different task. She rerouted power through secondary systems, bypassed damaged circuits, and rebuilt connections using spare parts from other systems. "What are you doing?" Tony asked, watching her work with amazement. "Making it work differently," Zara said, not looking up from her task. "If we cannot fix the quantum field generator, we create a new one using the shield generators and the navigation computer." "That is impossible," Ben said. "Those systems are not compatible." "They are if you know how to modify them," Zara replied. She worked for 10 hours straight. The other crew members took turns watching her, bringing her food and water. Jake never left the engine room. He sat on a crate and watched every move she made. As the hours passed, something strange happened. The suspicious looks began to change. Tony started handing her tools before she asked for them. Amy brought her coffee and stayed to watch. Even Lisa stopped making negative comments. "How did you learn to do this?" Jake asked as Zara connected the final circuit. "My people may be known as thieves," Zara said, "but we are also survivors. We learn to make things work with whatever we have." Finally, after 12 hours of constant work, Zara stepped back from the drive. She was covered in grease and sweat, but her eyes were bright with satisfaction. "Try it now," she said. Jake pressed the startup button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the quantum drive began to hum. The lights came back to full power and the ship's engines roared to life. "We have quantum drive," Amy called from the bridge. "All systems are working." The crew cheered. Tony clapped Zara on the shoulder, and Amy gave her a hug. Even Ben smiled and shook her hand. "That was incredible," Lisa said, looking at Zara with new respect. "I have never seen anything like it." They delivered the medicine to Kepler 4b with hours to spare. The colonists were grateful and Jake was paid in full. But more importantly, something had changed aboard the Liberty Bell. That night, the crew invited Zara to join them for dinner in the common room. For the first time, she was not eating alone. "You saved our contract," Jake said, raising his glass. "You saved those colonists, and you showed us what real skill looks like." Zara felt tears in her eyes. She had never been accepted like this before. These humans had given her more than just a job. They had given her a family. 3 weeks later, Jake received a special contract. The job paid twice their usual rate, but it came with extra danger. They needed to deliver medical supplies to a planet called Theros. A deadly plague was killing thousands of people there, and the medicine could not wait for regular shipping lanes. "The problem is getting there," Jake explained to his crew. "We have to pass through Krillian space. Those lizard-faced bullies stop every ship they see." The Krillians were known throughout the galaxy as aggressive and violent. They controlled a large section of space and demanded tribute from any ship passing through. Most cargo companies avoided their territory completely. "Why do we have to go through their space?" Amy asked. "It is the only route fast enough," Ben replied, checking his navigation charts. "Any other way would take 2 weeks longer. The people on Theros do not have 2 weeks." Zara listened quietly. She had heard terrible stories about the Krillians. They especially hated species they considered inferior. Valerians were definitely on that list. "Maybe I should stay behind," Zara said. "If they see me on your ship, it might cause more trouble." Jake looked at her with surprise. "You are part of this crew now. We do not leave crew members behind." The journey to Theros started smoothly. They made good time through the first 2 days, staying on the edge of Krillian space. But on the third day, their luck ran out. "Ship approaching," Amy called from the pilot seat. "It is big, and it is Krillian." Through the bridge windows, they could see a massive warship moving toward them. It was 3 times the size of the Liberty Bell, with weapons visible along its dark hull. The ship looked like it was built for war. "This is General Vextar of the Krillian Empire." A cold voice came through their communications. "Stop your engines and prepare to be boarded." Jake had no choice. Fighting was not an option. The Krillian warship could destroy them in seconds. "Do what he says," Jake told Amy. "Stop the engines." Within minutes, Krillian soldiers were boarding their ship. They were tall reptilian creatures with yellow eyes and sharp teeth. Their green scales looked like armor, and they carried large weapons that could kill with one shot. General Vextar was the biggest of them all. He was over 7 feet tall, with scars covering his face and arms. He looked at Jake with contempt. "You are carrying illegal cargo," the general said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "We are carrying medical supplies," Jake replied calmly. "Nothing illegal." "We will decide that," Vextar said. "My soldiers will search your ship." The Krillians spread out through the Liberty Bell, looking through every room and storage compartment. Jake and his crew were forced to wait on the bridge under guard. Zara tried to stay hidden behind the others, but it was impossible. When General Vextar saw her blue scales and 4 arms, his eyes lit up with anger. "A Valerian," he hissed. "I should have known. This ship is definitely carrying stolen goods." "She is my engineer," Jake said firmly. "She has done nothing wrong." Vextar laughed, showing his sharp teeth. "Valerians are all criminals. This one is probably the leader of your smuggling operation." "That is not true," Zara said, stepping forward. "I am a qualified engineer. I have never stolen anything." The general's hand moved to his weapon. "Silence, thief. You will come with us for questioning. Your human friends can watch you rot in a Krillian prison." "You cannot take her," Jake said, moving between Zara and the general. "She is under my protection." For a moment, it looked like violence would break out. The Krillian soldiers raised their weapons, and the tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Then Zara had an idea. "General," she said quickly, "before you arrest me, would you like to see something interesting?" Vextar looked at her suspiciously. "What kind of trick is this?" "No trick," Zara said. "I can show you how your own scanning equipment works. Most people do not understand the technology." The general was curious despite himself. Krillians were proud of their military technology. "Show me," he growled. Zara walked to the ship's freight scanner, which the Krillians had been using to search for contraband. She opened the control panel and began explaining how it worked. "This scanner uses quantum resonance to detect different materials," she said, her 4 hands moving over the controls. "But it has a weakness. If you overload the quantum field generator like this," she made several quick adjustments to the scanner's settings. "It creates a massive energy pulse that can blind other scanners for several minutes." As she spoke, she activated the modified scanner. A brilliant flash of light filled the bridge, followed by a loud humming sound. The Krillian soldiers stumbled backward, temporarily blinded by the intense light. "Now!" Jake shouted. The crew of the Liberty Bell had been ready. While the Krillians were confused and disoriented, Amy ran to the pilot controls and started the engines. Ben activated the ship's defensive systems. Tony sealed the airlocks, trapping some Krillian soldiers on board while others were left behind on their warship. "Their scanners are down," Zara called out. "They cannot target us for at least 5 minutes." "That is all we need," Amy said, pushing the engines to maximum power. The Liberty Bell shot away from the Krillian warship like a bullet. Behind them, they could hear General Vextar screaming orders over the radio, but his ship was blind and helpless. "Quantum jump in 30 seconds, Ben announced. The Krillian warship tried to follow them, but without their scanners, they could not lock onto the Liberty Bell's position. Jake's ship jumped to quantum space just as the enemy vessel's weapons came back online. They were safe. On the bridge, everyone looked at Zara with amazement. "How did you know that would work?" Lisa asked. "I studied Krillian technology at the Institute," Zara replied. "I knew their scanners had that weakness, but I never thought I would need to use it." Jake put his hand on her shoulder. "You saved us all." That was brilliant thinking. 2 days later, they delivered the medical supplies to Theros. The planet's government was so grateful that they paid the crew a bonus on top of their original contract. But more importantly, word began to spread through human space about the Valerian engineer who had outsmarted a Krillian general. Other ship captains started asking about her. Some even offered Jake money to borrow her services. "You are becoming famous," Jake told Zara as they left Theros orbit. "People are starting to see what I saw from the beginning. You are not just good at your job, you are extraordinary." Zara smiled. For the first time in her life, her reputation was based on her skills, not her species, and it felt wonderful. 6 months passed quickly. Word about Zara's amazing engineering skills spread throughout human space. Ship captains who had never heard of Valerians before now asked specifically for her help. Jake's small cargo business grew bigger every week. The Liberty Bell was no longer just one old ship. Jake now owned 3 cargo vessels and employed 15 people. He moved his main office to a larger space station called New Haven, where humans had built their own trading post. "I cannot believe how much things have changed," Jake said to Zara as they walked through their new headquarters. The building buzzed with activity. People were planning routes, loading cargo, and handling communications with dozens of clients. "It is because of your engineering tricks," he continued. "Our ships now travel 30% faster than anyone else's. We use half the fuel of our competitors. Every human company wants to know our secrets." Zara felt proud, but also worried. "Maybe we are growing too fast," she said. "Other species are starting to notice us." She was right to be concerned. The Galactic Trade Consortium was a powerful organization controlled by the wealthy Alterian merchant families. They had dominated galactic shipping for hundreds of years. The Alterians were tall, silver-skinned aliens who believed they were superior to all other species. For centuries, they had kept other species from competing with them. They controlled the best trade routes, had the most advanced ships, and charged whatever prices they wanted. But now humans were changing everything. Jake received his first big contract that week. Captain Sarah Johnson of the exploration ship New Horizon wanted Zara to design a completely new quantum drive system. The human government was planning their first expedition beyond the galaxy's edge, and they needed technology that had never been built before. "This is huge," Jake told his crew during their weekly meeting. "If Zara can build this drive system, it will change everything. Humans will be able to explore places no one has ever been." Zara worked day and night on the new design. She used her knowledge of alien technology combined with human innovation to create something completely new. The drive system would be twice as powerful as anything that existed, but it would also be smaller and use less energy. Other human companies began offering Zara incredible amounts of money to work for them instead. Morrison Interstellar received calls every day from companies willing to pay millions of credits for her services. "You could be rich beyond your dreams," Lisa told Zara. "These companies are offering you enough money to buy your own planet." But Zara was not interested in leaving. Jake had given her a chance when no one else would. These humans had become her family. "Money is not everything," Zara replied. "Jake believed in me when everyone else saw only my scales. I will not abandon him now." However, their success was making powerful enemies. The Alterian merchant houses were losing business to human companies. Their profits were dropping for the first time in centuries. Lord Kethmoran was the leader of the most powerful Alterian house. He was ancient, even by Alterian standards, and had controlled galactic trade for over 200 years. He did not like being challenged by newcomers. "These humans are becoming a problem," he told the other Alterian lords during a secret meeting. "Their Valerian engineer is giving them an unfair advantage." "What do you suggest we do?" asked Lady Vexara, another powerful merchant. "We remind the galaxy why Valerians cannot be trusted. Kethmoran said with a cold smile. We destroy their reputation and take back what is ours. The Alterians began their plan immediately. They spread rumors throughout the galaxy that Zara was using stolen technology. They claimed that all her innovations were actually Alterian designs that had been taken illegally. They pressured other alien species to stop working with human companies. They offered special deals to anyone who would boycott Morrison Interstellar and other human businesses. It is not fair, Amy said angrily. Everyone knows Zara invented those improvements herself. Fair does not matter, Ben replied. The Alterians have power and influence. They can make people believe whatever they want. The boycotts began to hurt. Several alien governments canceled contracts with human companies. Some space stations refused to allow human ships to dock. The Alterians were using their wealth and political connections to destroy human competition, but Jake refused to give up. We knew this would happen eventually, he told his crew. Success always makes enemies. We just have to be smarter than them. The crisis reached its peak when Zara received an invitation to speak at the Galactic Engineering Conference on the planet Centauri Prime. It was the most important engineering event in the galaxy, attended by the best minds from every species. This is your chance to show everyone what you can really do, Jake said. When they see your presentation, no one will be able to deny your brilliance. But Zara was nervous. What if they do not listen? What if they have already made up their minds about me? Then we change their minds, Jake said firmly. You changed mine. You changed my crew's minds. You can change theirs too. The conference was held in a massive building that could hold thousands of people. Engineers from across the galaxy came to share their latest discoveries and innovations. When Zara walked onto the stage, the reaction was immediate. Half the audience began whispering and pointing at her. Many Alterian engineers stood up and walked out of the room in protest. But Zara began her presentation anyway. She explained how she had redesigned quantum drive systems to be more efficient. She showed diagrams of her new exploration drive that could take ships beyond the galaxy. Slowly, the whispering stopped. Even the engineers who disliked Valerians could not argue with her mathematics. Her designs were clearly superior to anything that had been built before. Dr. Melanthar, a respected Alterian scientist, stood up during the question period. These designs are impressive, he admitted grudgingly. But how do we know they actually work? Zara smiled. Because Captain Johnson's ship is using my drive system right now. The New Horizon left for the galactic rim yesterday. They will reach areas of space that no one has ever explored before. The room erupted in excited conversation. If humans could travel beyond the galaxy, it would open up unlimited possibilities for exploration and discovery. After her presentation, dozens of engineers surrounded Zara with questions. They wanted to know how she had solved problems that had puzzled scientists for decades. I think differently, Zara explained. Being an outsider means I do not follow the same rules as everyone else. When Jake found her later, Zara was surrounded by admirers from a dozen different species. How did it go? He asked with a grin. I think we just changed the galaxy, Zara replied. The trouble started 3 weeks after the engineering conference. Zara was working late in her lab when Jake burst through the door with a worried expression. We have a serious problem, he said, holding a datapad. The Galactic Court has issued a warrant for your arrest. Zara felt her blood turn cold. What? Why? They say you sabotaged an Alterian cargo ship. 3 people were injured when their quantum drive exploded. Jake's face was grim. Lord Kethmoran himself filed the charges. Zara sat down heavily in her chair. But that is impossible. I have never even been on an Alterian ship. I was here working when that happened. I know that, and you know that, Jake said. But the court has evidence. Video recordings that seem to show you near the ship before the explosion. Those recordings must be fake, Zara said angrily. The Alterians are trying to destroy me because I'm hurting their business. Jake nodded. I think you are right, but we need to prove it. The next morning, galactic security officers arrived at New Haven Station. They were tall, gray aliens with no emotions on their faces. They had come to arrest Zara and take her to the court on Galactic Prime. Zara Kethlen, the lead officer said in a flat voice, you are charged with sabotage, Terrorism and conspiracy. You will come with us now. Jake stepped forward. She has the right to legal representation. I am going with her. That is not necessary, the officer replied. The accused will be provided with a court-appointed defender. No, Jake said firmly. I am her captain and her friend. Where she goes, I go. The entire crew of the Liberty Bell volunteered to come to the trial. Lisa, Ben, Tony, Amy, and the newer crew members Pete Wilson and Maria Gonzalez all wanted to support Zara. You do not have to do this, Zara told them as they prepared to leave for Galactic Prime. This could hurt your careers. We are a crew, Lisa said. We stick together no matter what. The trial was held in the massive Court of Galactic Justice, a building that looked like a crystal palace floating in space. Representatives from every major species came to watch. The case had become famous throughout the galaxy. Lord Kethmoran sat in the front row with other Altarian nobles. His silver skin gleamed under the court lights and his cold eyes never left Zara's face. The prosecutor was a Counselor Veltan, an Altarian lawyer known for never losing a case. He presented his evidence with confidence. The defendant was seen near the cargo ship Stellar Wind on the day of the explosion, he said, showing video recordings to the court. These images clearly show her distinctive blue scales and 4 arms. The videos did look convincing. They showed someone who looked exactly like Zara walking near the damaged ship just hours before the explosion. Furthermore, Veltan continued, everyone knows that Valerians are natural criminals. This defendant may seem civilized, but she cannot escape her species' true nature. Many aliens in the courtroom nodded in agreement. The old prejudices were strong. Zara's court-appointed lawyer was nervous and inexperienced. He barely asked any questions and seemed ready to accept defeat before the trial even began. But then Jake stood up. Your Honor, he said loudly, I request permission to speak for the defendant. The judge, an ancient creature with tentacles instead of arms, looked surprised. You are not a lawyer, Captain Morrison. No, but I know this person better than anyone in this room, Jake replied, and I have evidence that will prove her innocence. Jake had spent every moment since Zara's arrest investigating the case. He and his crew had worked together like detectives, following every lead and checking every detail. The videos shown by the prosecutor are fake, Jake announced. They were created using advanced computer technology. He presented his own evidence to the court. Technical analysis showed that the videos had been artificially created. The lighting was wrong, the shadows did not match, and there were tiny digital errors that proved the recordings were not real. But more importantly, Jake continued, we found the real saboteur. He showed new video evidence to the court. Hidden security cameras had recorded the actual person who damaged the Altarian ship. It was not Zara at all. It was an Altarian engineer, named Kolveth, who worked for Lord Kethmoran's own company. This Altarian sabotaged his own company's ship, Jake said. He did it to frame Zara and destroy human competition in the shipping business. The courtroom erupted in shocked voices. Lord Kethmoran's face turned dark with anger, but he could not deny the evidence. Jake was not finished. This is not just about one person, he said, turning to address the entire courtroom. This is about how we treat each other in this galaxy. His voice grew stronger as he spoke. For too long, we have judged people by their species instead of their actions. We have let fear and prejudice control our decisions. He pointed to Zara. This woman has saved lives, revolutionized space travel, and helped humans explore beyond our galaxy. But some of you still see only her scales. Jake's eyes swept across the courtroom. Humans judge people by what they do, not what they look like. We believe in giving everyone a fair chance to prove themselves. The judge deliberated for only 30 minutes. When the court reconvened, Zara was declared innocent of all charges. The evidence against her was thrown out, and an investigation was opened into Altarian business practices, but the trial's impact went far beyond Zara's freedom. Jake's speech had been broadcast throughout the galaxy. Millions of beings from dozens of species had heard his words about fairness and opportunity. Within days, other alien species began contacting human companies. The Zelkari, who had been treated as second-class citizens for centuries, asked to join human shipping operations. The Thronians, whose art had been dismissed by most species, found human buyers eager for their work. A month later, Zara stood with Jake at the launch ceremony for the first mixed-species exploration fleet. Her quantum drive innovations powered ships crewed by humans, Valerians, Zelkari, Thronians, and many other species who had been excluded from major galactic operations. "Look what you started," Jake said, watching the diverse crews preparing for their missions. "No," Zara replied with a smile. "Look what we started together." As the fleet departed for unknown regions of space, Zara received a message on her personal communicator. It was from a young Valerian engineer who had just graduated from the academy. "I heard about your success," the message read. "I have been rejected by every major company because of what I am. Do you think Morrison Interstellar might have a place for me?" Zara looked at the message and thought about her own journey. From rejected outcast to respected engineer, from criminal stereotype to galactic hero. All because one human had been willing to look past her scales and see her potential. She typed her response quickly. "Send us your resume. We judge by skill, not by species." Jake had changed her life by giving her a chance. Now it was her turn to change someone else's life. The revolution of fairness and opportunity was just beginning, and it would spread to every corner of the galaxy.